Welcome back, folks, to our last section on the AP Bio Evolution Unit, Unit 7, and we're doing Part 7 of the notes, which deals with the origins of life on Earth, which is Section 7.13 in AP Bio Curriculum, and it's Chapter 25.1 in your book. The origin of life is not well understood. There's a lot of different hypotheses and minor theories out there. A lot of different experiments been done to prove that this might have been able to happen or that might have been able to happen, but there's nothing really definitive. So we're kind of just doing a little very quick, brief look at some of the thoughts about what needed to happen for life to exist on Earth. So first off, the age of the Earth. Okay, Earth formed about 4.6 billion years ago, but for the first half a billion years or so, it would have been just a ball of molten hot mess with asteroids and comets and things hitting all the time, and it just would not have been conducive to life until at least 3.9 billion years ago. We have our first evidence for life on the planet with fossil evidence of stromatolites 3.5 billion years ago. Stromatolites are these things down here. They're basically sheets of bacteria that grow one on top of the other in shallow seas. And they form these little humps. And we do have evidence of those that are 3.5 billion years old. Now, life could be older than that, and likely is, but the first fossil evidence we found is 3.5 billion years ago. So life is, from what we know, somewhere between 3.9 and 3.5 billion years old. It happens somewhere in this range, and a little bit on when it starts also kind of depends on a little bit on what you classify as life. So let's get into that a little bit. So the conditions on early Earth must have made the origin of life possible. We know that because life is here. Chemical and physical processes on the Earth may have produced very simple cells through a sequence of stages. And I say may because none of this has been proven beyond doubt yet. Not that everything ever is proven beyond doubt in science, but we're far from it in this particular area. One, abiotic synthesis of small organic molecules. So small organic molecules like amino acids and things made just spontaneously in a pond or something, not made by a living thing. Then those molecules have to join together to form macromolecules. Then those macromolecules have to be packaged together in some sort of a protocell, something with a membrane that separates it from the outside world. And then you have to be able to replicate that in order to have what we would consider to be a cell and the first life. So, organic compounds synthesized on early Earth? Yeah. Our atmosphere claimed all sorts of stuff. Water vapor, lots of water vapor, because early on, pretty much all the water was in vapor form. It was too hot for it to be in liquid form for a while. And lots of chemicals released by volcanic eruptions, nitrogen, nitrous oxides, carbon dioxide, methane, ammonia, hydrogen. Probably not a lot of oxygen, okay? Which means the early atmosphere could have been a reducing environment. And studies have shown that in a reducing environment, some of these organic molecules can form spontaneously given the chemical composition we think was around then. Or if it wasn't, because there's other research says maybe it wasn't in a reducing environment, it could have been formed in these little microclimates from the energy around volcanoes and deep sea vents. And we have some evidence of different types of life living around deep sea vents in the deep ocean, actually, that are not part of the regular food chain. They're chemioautotrophs as opposed to photoautotrophs, and a little different down there. And that could be similar to what early life was like on Earth. Or there's speculation that these early organic molecules could have come from outer space. We have found organic molecules, specifically amino acids, in meteorites, 60-something different amino acids, I believe, in at least one meteorite. We only need 20 of those for living things. So amino acids have been brought to Earth by meteorites. So some of the stuff could have originated, some of the materials could have originated from outer space. So once you have those regular organic molecules, those monomers, we got to start putting them together into some polymers. And it seems likely that RNA monomers, maybe some of the earlier ones, we have been able to produce RNA monomers spontaneously from simple molecules. in lab conditions set up to resemble what we think the early Earth was like. Um, and those small organic molecules can polymerize sometimes when they're concentrated on hot sand, clay, or rock. They've actually dripped those small organic molecules onto hot sand, clay, and rock, and they form longer macromolecules. So just that dripping of these fluids rich with monomers onto a hot, rocky surface can stimulate this. Um, but then we still have to have some way to life. A hallmark of life is you got to be able to self-regulate, and you got to be able to separate the inside world from the outside world. You need to be able to compartmentalize things. To do that, we need some, as life today has membranes, right? So replication and metabolism are key properties of life, and they may have appeared together in protocells. Protocells may have formed from fluid-filled vesicles with a membrane-like structure. We have talked about micelles and phospholipids before, right? How phospholipids have a hydrophilic head that likes to be that is attracted to water, and a hydrophobic tail that is repelled by water, basically. So if you throw a bunch on the surface of water, they'll form this little sheet with the tails poking up. If you can get them underwater, they want to spontaneously form a bilayer, and that keeps these inner tails from having to touch water, but you still have water touching over here and over here, which isn't nice for them. So they will generally, if you can get them in the water, will either form micelles, which is just all the tails point in and there's nothing in the middle, like this, a little blob, but they can also form a vesicle, a spherical bilayer, and that will form basically a simple cell membrane. Okay, it doesn't have all the other stuff that are in our more complex cell membranes now, but it forms a simple basis for a membrane. Okay, if some fine clay is added into the water, that actually seems to increase the rate of vesicle formation, which is interesting. And they seem to be able to maintain an internal chemical environment. So that takes us to the genetic material. The first genetic material on Earth was probably RNA, not DNA. We call this the RNA world hypothesis. We have found RNA molecules called ribozymes that have been found to catalyze many different reactions. So ribozymes are kind of like enzymes, but instead of being made out of proteins, they're made out of RNA. So you can get the genetic information function RNA, but you can also get the molecular machinery to make things that you get from proteins. So it's kind of a nice, you can get 2 for 1 with RNA, which is nice. And some ribozymes can make complementary copies of short stretches of RNA. And we've seen these ribozymes form spontaneously in lab situations that replicate early Earth's conditions as we know them anyway. So we have seen that natural selection has produced self-replicating RNA molecules in labs. So it wasn't directed by the lab techs, just left to run, and we were able to get some RNA molecules that self-replicated. RNA molecules that were more stable were able to replicate or replicate more quickly, would have left more descendant RNA molecules, so simple evolution, right? If you can make more copies of yourself, you're going to take over a bigger part of the population, and that early genetic material might have formed an RNA world. And then once you pair the RNA capable of replication with vesicles, then you have those protocells. Okay, and they're kind of working together to provide a ideal environment for the RNA to replicate, and the RNA can ensure that the vesicle is able to replicate, and we've got those basic start to life. And then RNA could have provided the template for DNA, that double-stranded DNA, which is more stable than RNA, which when the genetic code starts getting more complicated, having a more stable genetic code is better evolutionarily, which is why we think DNA then took over. And that is going to do it here, guys. We'll talk about some of these implications and things in class, but I just want to introduce the concept to you in this short little video. We'll see you back in class. Bye.